Hey guys, it's Marissa. So it's now day 3 of National Eating Disorders Awareness Week, and today I wanted to address one of the most frustrating parts of eating disorder recovery: binge eating. When I first started going through eating disorder recovery, I thought that I was never going to stop binging. I didn't even know what normal eating was, and any thought of eating normal again just didn't seem obtainable. Any effort I put towards eating normal was almost always diminished by a big binge. But if you take some very important steps, you can get through binge eating and you can start eating normally again. So jumping into things, when people eat a large amount of food, they're like, is this a binge? Did I just binge? Or if people cheat on their diet, they immediately call that a binge. Binge eating is actually defined as eating unusually large amounts of food while experiencing a lack of control over eating. Some binge eating disorder patients may just feel like they're binging because it relieves stress, it's what they do when they're bored, helps them cope with anxiety or depression. But it is a well-known fact that food restriction increases the likeliness of binge eating. A number of studies have shown that a direct cause of binge eating is actually dietary restraint. Binge eating disorder is a real eating disorder, and it is found in over 60% of anorexia nervosa patients. So whether or not you have an actual diagnosed eating disorder or you've just been on a diet cycle your entire life, you can fall into some binge episodes. Any form of restrictive eating leaves your body deprived of nutrients and calories that it needs, and it also deprives you of the psychological pleasure that you get from food. If you're trying to eat normally again, and in your attempts to eat normally again, you feel as though it will always result in a binge, and so you restrict again in order to make up for that binge, it's going to be a never-ending cycle and you'll never recover from binge eating. Even the smallest food rules can result in binging. If you have rules such as you won't allow yourself to eat after 7 p.m. or you won't allow yourself to eat foods that have a certain amount of fat, those mentalities alone can result in a binge. So if you're stuck in a binge restrict cycle, or if you're stuck just binging while you're trying to recover from your eating disorder, here are some tips that might help you. Without it becoming obsessive or some form of dieting, creating a food plan for yourself can be helpful. Not necessarily laying out the foods you can eat, but kind of laying out how many times you should be eating each day. From my studies, what I have read is that binge eating disorder patients should aim to eat 3 meals a day and 2 snacks a day. A food plan like this that is regularly portioned and timed can give you a sense of control and can also give you a better outlook on your day. It just gives you that sense of control so you don't feel out of control when you're opening your pantry and they're just like, I don't know what to eat, so I'm going to eat everything. Going off of this, keeping some sort of food journal can sometimes be helpful. Not necessarily journaling everything you eat, but journaling how you feel, or journaling what happened after the meal, or if you did have a binge, why you think this happened. That way you can get a better outlook on how things are going, because you can see, I skipped lunch because I was thinking that I was fat and that led to a binge later in the day. You can see that not only did you not eat lunch which gave you restriction, which led to your binge, but also the negative self-talk reinforces low self-esteem, and that perceived lack of control is a characteristic of the binge cycle. You might even notice that you are more likely to binge if you eat past a certain level of fullness, or if you eat before a certain level of fullness. So monitoring these things can help you decide when to stop eating and also when you need to keep eating at meals. If I eat too small of a breakfast, it makes me overeat at night. So even though in the moment at breakfast I may not be overly hungry, I kind of make myself eat a little bit more than I would normally want, because that'll make the evening more manageable. So if one day you realize that you don't really feel like you ate enough, or you finish your lunch and you feel like you're still hungry, whether that's mentally or physically, match that. Make that a part of your plan to eat a little bit more. For most people who are underweight, it might mean eating a little bit past what your normal comfortable fullness levels are. That might be what it takes to make you mentally satisfied. For people who are underweight, you may feel completely out of control during a majority of the beginning phases of your recovery. And that's okay. But if you are regularly planning and timing this, you're saying this is my breakfast, then it becomes part of your control. Even if your breakfast is 1,000, 2,000 calories, because that's what your body is needing right now, that's okay. That's not a binge, because that was your breakfast. You labeled that your breakfast, that's your breakfast. Eating one of those planned meals and feeling stuffed afterwards is not a binge. And eventually, those feelings of being stuffed will start to go away because you'll start to recognize when you feel good and your mentality will come back to normal, your satiation levels, your hunger, your fullness levels, everything will start to come in line again and you'll be able to eat what one may call normal. So now the fun part, once all the binging is done, once you have gained weight and are at a regular normal weight again, once you feel like you can eat normally again, this is when things start to make sense. And slowly but surely your weight does actually start to level out. So if you are gaining weight from a period of restriction where you're recovering from that, it will stop. You're not going to become morbidly obese. It will level out, and when everything regulates, it will start to go back down to a healthy weight. Naturally. This happened to me without exercise or dieting. And it all figured itself out without me even trying, so trust the process is one of my biggest tips. So if you do have a binge, here is my advice. Stick to your plan. So if you have a binge really late at night, don't skip breakfast the next morning, still have breakfast. If you binge at your second snack of the day, don't skip dinner, still eat dinner. Stick to your plan that will help reinforce normal eating in your mind. Do not let yourself get overly hungry. The second you let yourself get overly hungry, it's bound to happen. It's just an immediate reaction. It's a reflex for you to binge. Do not put yourself down for urges or binges. It's all a learning experience. Kind of look at it from an outside perspective. Don't beat yourself up about it. If you mess up, you're not stepping back. That is just one stepping stone forward because you messed up and now you're going to reflect on that, see what you did, and you're going to continue to follow what you're doing. Low self-esteem and lack of control are both characteristics of binge eating. Don't let that side win. Also, if you binge, don't weigh yourself. How about this? Don't ever weigh yourself. Get rid of the scale. A book that I very strongly recommend, especially if you're dealing with the psychological side of binge eating, such as bored eating and eating to cope with depression, things like that, is a book. I'll actually get it for you. It's right behind me. Called Intuitive Eating, A Revolutionary Guide That Works, and it absolutely is that. It is a revolutionary guide that works. This saved me so many times. It's very helpful, especially if you are dealing with the emotional and psychological sides of it all. Things will get better day by day. It's a long process and you have to be patient, but you will get better. You have to believe in yourself because if you don't, you're just going to feed that cycle. Anyway, know that you are more than your body. You are more than what you look like on the outside. And there's so much more to life than what you're feeling now. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, comment down below any thoughts that you might have, and subscribe so you know when I put out new videos. Bye guys!